DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're looking at the Call of Atropus. If you're like me and love the Cthulhian horror genre and star spawn from the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, this adventure is probably for you. So, the Call of Atropus. What are we getting here from this adventure from Christopher Walls? We're getting an adventure designed for characters levels between 5 and 7. Although there are rules and tools to help you adjust the encounters one way or the other, most of those are in for those very narrow bands. For instance, if your character's levels are 5, you might remove a star spawn guru here or there. If your characters are level 7, you might add a few. But that's the kind of very narrow band because the adventure is tuned so tightly. And it's tuned that tightly to kind of pay homage and kind of understand what a Cthulhian adventure really is. Cthulhu and Lovecraft is all about you won because you're still alive. The whole point of it is that you very rarely win in these kind of adventures. The only thing you really do is make it to the end and your character might still be alive and might have his sanity in check. And that's kind of what's presented here. This isn't an encounter for your traditional hack and slash Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Your murder hobos need not apply here. In fact, they would probably be murdered and massacred and left on the steps of the observatory to rot. So, from there, it's a single set of encounters all placed within this observatory, all centered around the idea of an elder god that passes overhead just in happenstance and begins to awaken things that lie within. There's a number of mystery elements here. Your initial task is to go seek out an elven woman and her 2 dwarven compatriots that went looking for a researcher of the depths. When they didn't come back, Candlekeep sent you in to go and rescue them, or at least to find out what happened. As a result, you delve deep into the eldritch horrors themselves. It's worth noting that this is a single map environment that scales upwards. It is a 3D representation, so you can go up and down within the single observatory. And there are dangers abound and afoot across all of it. There is the ever-present situation that you have to contend with of your own sanity being at risk while being in here. There are star spawn and all kinds of other horrible creatures, not to mention the dead researcher himself that still haunts these halls. So what did I like about this? Well, I really love Cthulhu horror. It's one of my favorite genres to see in various things. I've run all kinds of games with those as themes, and I've seen various modules that use it in varying levels of degrees. I haven't seen one that has done it quite this well, though. Part of the whole problem with a lot of the other modules is they stick a star spawn in here or there, or stick an elder god in as part of the themes, but they don't go the full whack and say, no, these things are way beyond your kin, and they will massacre you at the drop of a hat. Part of the whole thing with the elder gods is that most of them don't even acknowledge your existence. Their mere presence causes madness, and their mere existence is a danger to anyone who is near them. That's the whole point, and that this adventure gets that very well. Your whole task is to rescue this woman, and I can see a path through it that means that, yeah, you could avoid everything. And for most adventuring parties that want to do this, they probably should. There is a lot of very dangerous, interesting encounters within this. The ghost of the doctor himself, the nascent researcher, will constantly harry your party if he knows you're there. So best to be on your guard and best to be quiet. I can see a party of who has maybe a few people in heavy armor shedding that armor to avoid being detected by this thing. It's interesting to see that kind of taking the Cthulhu themes and ideas and really bringing it into D&D. Another thing I really liked is that a lot of the monsters and creatures have their tactics laid out, so you know what to do and how they should respond. And the tactics are interesting and unique, and they take advantage of their unique abilities. The ghost of the researcher, for instance, is a creature called an Alep, and it can phase and move through walls, and it will do so, and poke and prod at the players as they move through the observatory. Another thing I really loved was seeing how you can add magical items into the fray and them fitting so well. Things like true seeing, the puzzles inside it are kind of also a very unique Cthulhu-style puzzle with movements of the stars as kind of a way of solving various equations and things. And multiple solutions to puzzles are also always very good. In all, I really liked the overall arc of story in this as well. It was very well handled. So, what didn't I like about the adventure? I know I've just kind of gone through and said I really like the way it was handled and it's very Cthulhu-like. Saying that, because of that, the encounters themselves are incredibly deadly. It is a point as to when you can have a player fall down a hole and end up attracting everything in the observatory. As a result of that attraction, the other players might, in fact, their best bet is probably to abandon that player, to let him be killed by whatever creatures and whatever horrors are left within the encounter. The other thing I thought was a little odd was that if the players, for instance, managed to defeat a bunch of the star spawn, leave, and then come back, the creatures can respawn depending on how far they've delved into the dungeon, the observatory itself. I like the idea. I think some players might get a little annoyed by it after it happened maybe more than once, especially with the creatures that are reconstituting themselves. They're quite deadly, or can be in the right circumstances. And the Alep itself is quite a nasty comer, especially because he can move through walls, grab and snatch at players' ankles. The other thing, the final thing that I didn't like, was that the maps that are presented aren't part of their own separate file for easy integration into things like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. It's a minor thing, but it is always nice to have those maps as separates, just so that they're easier to integrate into those systems. Makes it a little nicer. While it doesn't mean that I can't do it, it means that I have to take extra steps. So, that's my 2 cents. Now, finally, my rating. So, we use the perk system, so my polish, exploration, roleplay, and combat. Combat, it's a 5. There are so many interesting ways to handle combat in these encounters, so many different things that can happen, and so many different ways that the monsters and the environment can interact with it. That means that every combat encounter should feel like something different and unique, unless your DM is already doing something crazy. Well, good. But this presents a really good set of tools for any DM to do encounters that are more off the wall, more interesting, more unique, very Cthulhu in their nature. Now, roleplay. The roleplay is going to be a little interesting, partially because a lot of it comes down to the DM acting on the player's fears. There is a section in here about how to kind of tease the players about the madness that they're experiencing, little visions that they might see based on their backgrounds to kind of pull and eke them out. Now, a good DM will know more about the characters' backstories and be able to maybe pull some extra bits out, but having that little table was a little nice addition. Now, in terms of actual roleplay, there is a possibility to change the course of events based on your roleplay alone. And having your players roleplay the madness and the way it affects them would be a great addition. So there's a lot of opportunity here, but it's very DM heavy. It's very kind of restricted in terms of the kind of roleplay you're going to get out of here. Mostly it's going to be reacting to madness and a very specific flavor of roleplay. Not that that's a bad thing. I really like it. I think it's really well done. So in that case, I'm giving it a 5. Now, exploration. There are a lot of rooms to go through. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of places to go. But essentially, it boils down to a single straight shot. Go up. There's no room for kind of wiggling or moving around. The dungeon doesn't really allow for kind of deviation or true exploration. You go in one direction, you go in the front door, and you work your way to the top, or nearest to the top you can. There's no way to kind of say, well, I want to try these little tributaries or little side rooms. They do exist, but for the most part, they're minor. At the end of the day, you are still going a single direction. But that's kind of always going to be the problem when you have your location in a tower. So for exploration, I'm going to have to give it a 4. It doesn't meet like my kind of good litmus test for how to spread out and do different things. Finally, my polish. How do I feel that this is polished and well presented? For me, not having the maps as separate files is kind of a little bugbear of mine. I always like to see it. It's always nice to have, and I run all of my stuff via virtual systems. So I'm going to have to dock a point for that. However, in terms of everything else that's presented here, it's really well done. They're good formatting, good reminders, good descriptions for the most part. I would have liked to see more kind of expanded. Pull out more of the Cthulhu style of writing, the Lovecraftian, creepy, alien unknown stuff. But that's a minor thing. So I think, however, on the whole, polish gets a 4, maybe a 3.5 from me. So in all total, we have a 4, a 4, a 5, and a 5. So that gives me 18 points divided by 4, which is 4.5. So on the DM's Guild, I'll rate this a 4. I think it's really good. I think there's some things that could be improved. Splitting the maps out to a separate file would definitely improve the score. And going back and looking at the descriptions of the various rooms and kind of making just another pass on them. Improving their kind of creep factor. Because at the moment, they give you a good description, but they don't give you that fear in your heart, in your soul, as to why this place is terrifying and why this place is alien. Thank you for watching. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, please use my affiliate links. They really do help the channel out. They let me know kind of what you guys are looking at, what you guys are buying, and what you guys are kind of interested in as content that go forward. Thank you, and peace out.